Hi, everyone, and welcome back to part two of this two-part supernatural deer spouse series. Okay, try to say that 5 times fast. If you missed the first video, I've included a link here for you to watch it. If you want to keep going with the second story called Deer Husband, then stick around. Before we get started, however, do remember to subscribe so that you never miss a legendary story out of Chinese history. Once upon a time, there was a young unmarried woman who lived with her family in an Amis village in Taiwan. One day out of the blue, she informed her parents that she would be going out to the field to work alone, and she refused all help or even the company of her siblings. Needless to say, such behavior started raising suspicions from her mother. So, one day at midday, the mother decided to sneak up on her daughter where she was working in the fields under the guise of delivering a lunchbox. As she came upon the field, the mother heard two people, one of whom was her daughter, talking and laughing happily. However, when she rushed into the clearing, she only found her daughter alone. Now the mother demanded to know who was just here, claiming that she had heard her daughter speaking and laughing with someone else. The daughter maintained an appearance of total innocence and claimed that, as her mother could see for herself, she was entirely alone. The mother looked around the field, certain that someone had to be helping her daughter, as she couldn't have done all those field chores by herself. She began to accuse her daughter of hiding her lover on purpose, but the young woman remained adamant that there was no one, and at that point her mother had no choice but to let the matter drop. However, the mother did share her concerns with her husband, and so a few days later, as the millet and yams were ready for harvesting, the woman's father went to the fields in order to investigate things for himself. Now, he found the millet and yams ready for gathering, but also noted how well manicured the field was and how hard more than one person would have had to work in order to maintain the field in this way. Everything appeared in order until he came across some rather large set of deer tracks by the neat rows. Now, to him, this was the strangest thing of all. He thought to himself, here are all the crops, all of the millet and the yams, ready to be harvested, and next to them, deer tracks of a deer that apparently could have eaten its fill, but didn't take advantage of the bounty that was before it. However, the father decided that he would still need to take care of the deer in case it decided to come back and sate its hunger at a later time. So the father returned home for his bamboo rifle and then went back to the edge of the field and hid himself in order to lie in wait for the deer. Before long, an antlered buck entered the field from the forest. As the creature drew closer and closer, the father finally had his chance to take a fatal shot at the buck and was successful in killing it. He hoisted the body and slung it over his shoulders and carried it home triumphantly. However, he could not have expected what would come to pass as a result of his actions. The daughter began to tremble and shake when she saw what her father had brought back from the fields. Upon recognizing the animal, she began to scream, "Why did you kill him? Why did you kill my husband?" Now, shocked beyond comprehension, the mother and father demanded that their daughter explain herself, but she was so blinded by grief that she could say nothing and ended up simply pushing her parents away as she scrambled up one of the columns of the house and along the roof beam until she was directly over the head of the dead buck. To her parents' horror, she leapt from the beam and fell dead onto the buck's antlers. The broken-hearted father shook his head as he realized that the young buck he had just killed had actually been his son-in-law, who had been helping his daughter tend his field so well over the past few weeks. Now, this is some pretty sad stuff, I know. I mean, talk about star-crossed lovers on a supernatural level. It's interesting to note that Deer Husband never changes his shape into human form or reveals that he has a spirit nature like the Deer Maiden does, and in fact dies at the hands of a human. Now, all we know of his supernatural nature is that he is overheard speaking with the young woman that he took as his wife. So we will never know if he truly was an animal spirit or maybe just an enchanted animal. But nevertheless, both Deer Husband and Deer Maiden show two Amis youths who have this affinity for nature. And I think in both the East and the West, there is a very human desire to be part of the natural world. It is in our past, and despite how far human civilization has come, we never really escape our biological connection with what is wild. Children especially seem drawn to animals, and as adults, we aren't necessarily immune to the wonder of nature, even if we know it is a more harsh and unforgiving reality than what we're normally used to. The young man from Deer Maiden, if you'll recall, Ya-ai, proves his virtue by saving his wife from a deadly snake attack, and the young woman from Deer Husband finds the buck to be a loving companion and a dependable family helper. However, these folktales, like many of its kind simply and sadly. They are not relationships that can ultimately last, which Dr. Lobb indicates in his collection of stories, suggests that humans, like the young woman from Dear Husband, are no longer able to reclaim that past connection with nature that we often find ourselves desiring. Nor are humans, no matter how virtuous, like the young man Ya-ai in Deer Maiden, with our sense of free will, able to maintain our end of the bargain with the spirit world. By violating a simple agreement with his wife, Ya-ai is actually the cause of their eternal separation and shows that no matter how much we may wish it, humans and spirits ultimately are not meant to be together in the long run. You can find another example of this sort of relationship in The Legend of the White Snake, which I cover in a different video. So I would definitely check that one out, as it is one of the 4 great folktales of ancient China. If you enjoyed the chat today about Dear Husband, be sure to hit the thumbs up button below and also subscribe to get alerted so that you never miss another story. Thanks for watching and see you next time.